This meeting to order. Thank you for being here. And ask for approval of the agenda.
I would like to recommend to the board that we amend the agenda to move both the collaborative marketing effort, Don's and MDOT US 31 detour presentation up to number 4, right after public comment.
That motion?
Motion from Karen. Second from Ben. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Public comment. Another option at the end of the meeting. Thanks for being here. Moving on to collaborative marketing effort. Adam Dons, thanks for being here.
Okay, well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adam Dons. I am chairman of the Manistee County Airport Authority, and I really appreciate your time, Chairman Mosier, and members of the Downtown Development Authority. I'm speaking here today on behalf of a collaborative marketing concept that already has received the support of Contour Airlines, the Manistee Blacker Airport Authority, the Chamber of Commerce, and its economic development arm in requesting the support of this group as the fifth leg on the stool. To my knowledge, the United States Department of Transportation, through a grant valued at approximately $22 million, has provided an incentive for Contour Airlines to serve Manistee. You may have been familiar with Cape Air. We now have jet service on a 30-passenger jet, and we've increased the seating capacity to over 34,000 available seats. That's a 200% increase in seating capacity compared to Cape Air. And so I called a meeting of stakeholders a couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago now, and I said, with this $22 million investment that the federal government has made in Manistee, how can we make the most of it? It's over 3 years, and I thought the best way to ensure we continue jet service is to work on increasing ridership in year 1, not in year 2 or 3. Specifically, what my intent and the intent of the program is for the DDA is to increase commerce and investment in the downtown central business district. And so during our stakeholder meeting, I heard a series of objections or concerns, maybe is a better way to put it, of people may fly from Chicago up to Manistee and then they leave, whether they go to Ludington, Pentwater, Crystal Lake, northbound. They may come in, we would get all this ridership, which is good for the airport, but they may miss out on the merchants in the central business district here in Manistee. Secondly, there were other concerns apart from leakage of dollars spent in Manistee, with reputation of the airline or, just not aware. I talked to several people around town who were not aware of the new jet service. And so as a result of that meeting, Sammy from tourism called shortly thereafter, and she was the first one to step up in a leadership position and say that tourism would make a commitment to have some synergy between the marketing of Contour Airlines and their investment in Chicago. You may be aware that tourism invests in a number of markets, both throughout Michigan and other Midwestern states. And so they've offered to brand the fact that Manistee is served by Contour and its relationship with American Airlines and United Airlines. So your frequent flyer points will work right in here into Manistee. And thinking of the U.S. Department of Transportation's investment and then tourism's investment, I said, what can we do for a stimulus to ensure that when people get off the plane, they come downtown Manistee, or at least spend some money in Manistee before they leave. And so the 5 stakeholders, as I mentioned earlier, would be the airline, Manistee Blacker Airport Authority, the Chamber of Commerce, the economic development arm, and then tourism. And our thought was to do a $100 gift card for one lucky passenger on flights in June, July, August, and September. And so there's about 242 flights and inbound. My thought was to incent people to come to town, and so that's why it's the inbound flights only. We're not giving them the $100 gift card to leave town. So $100 at 242 flights is 24,200. There's a cost to make the cards. I think currently the chamber has a paper certificate, but in working with Carmen, I thought we could increase the image of that and get like a Visa gift card that you see. And I thought since it was summer, we should take advantage of both sides of the card and get a photo of the sleigh bell parade. So all the people that come up in the summer may not know about things going on here in the winter, and that's really what we're trying to aspire to, is become a 4 seasons destination and fill our hotels and merchants with commerce in the off season and the shoulder season. So one side of that card will have the sleigh bell parade with the Clydesdales pulling the tree down and seeing thousands of people lined down the street. The other side will have the beach and the lighthouse. So the next great thing, in my opinion, about the program is it's use it or lose it. We'll set an expiration of December 26th, and it will only be there will only be a cost if people use the card. So $100 face value. If they ring it up at a restaurant and the tab is $75, we'll only be charged $75, not the full 100. If they don't use the card, there's no cost to us at all. So unlike an ad that you may run, you pay for that, whether the customers come and shop in town or not. You only contribute to the cost of this if people spend the money and deliver the intended purpose here at Manistee. So maximum contribution would be $5,000 from each organization. The first 4 organizations that I've mentioned have already approved this. So the DDA is the last leg of the stool. From conception to implementation is about 5 weeks. So I think that in and of itself, we talk about collaboration and working together. Here's an opportunity to really get an idea off the ground, to have the chamber, the DDA, economic development, the airport, and the airline all sharing in the cost of that. In my opinion, is not only collaboration, but execution, and it's done in record time to deliver immediate cash benefit to the central business district. So I'll take any questions that anyone has. I know I was a little fast, but you have a long agenda, and I want to be respectful of your time.
I have a question, and maybe it's a question for Carmen. Is this being proposed to run through the existing Manistee County Cash Program?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not a Visa gift card, it's an existing program,
It's an
right?
existing program, but it would look more
Yeah,
like a
it'd be a
gift
plastic
card
Okay,
than what we currently
all right.
do, just from an image
Thank
standpoint.
you. for the
We
clarification.
talked about in giving out that card, we also want to have some sort of package, because it's one thing to get the card and not know where to go with it. So some sort of packaging. I know that you have flyers and stuff out there, but it's like we want people to turn left and know where to go instead of turn right to go north.
Yes, Carmen, is it correct that we'll have a QR code on the card?
Yeah, there will be, they will have a QR code, and then we'll have like a welcome note that will say, this is how you can redeem the promo. And then there'll be a list of all the businesses that you can use with the gift card.
Directions.
Yes. Additionally, Karen, your question reminded me that the Airport Authority in Barry had asked for us to obtain email addresses so we could do direct marketing and follow up. So we're working with Contour to see if that's possible. And Contour has allowed us to write a script that acknowledges the participation of the stakeholders that are funding this program. So when the plane lands, they'll give the time and temperature, and then acknowledge the community's appreciation of the guests here the funding that's come from our various groups.
How are we controlling, or how are you gonna control who gets that gift certificate, or gift card?
Yep.
I know you said inbound, but if I fly to Chicago and come back, am I in the running for this thing?
Yes, so if you leave Manistee, the return flight would be in the running. And Contour said they would work on a lotto system where the computer would just generate seat 7A.
Adam, how is the reconciling gonna happen? Or is it everybody's paying the 5,000 up front, or is it redeemed and reconciled? So theoretically, we might not spend $5,000.
Right, redeemed and reconciled. So it's a maximum commitment. If you had 100%, it'd be up to 5,000, but it's only based on what's actually spent.
So we'll bill monthly, we'll divide the bill out and send it.
Carmen, is monthly all right with you?
Yes, absolutely. So my thought is, we'll be able to track where the gift certificates are either being spent. And, I'll be able to say, okay, and then divide it through the 5 partners and then give a report to all of the stakeholders in the group, just so that way we're very clear on, okay, this is the amount that's being spent. And then whatever is not spent will either come back to the organization.
Okay. I've already talked to some merchants here in the River Street corridor that were not presently serving or participating in the Manistee County Cash Program and have said, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to get involved. So that's meaningful also.
And merchants will redeem it the same way we do now with the county cash.
Yeah, so once we are able to get the gift card, we'll get with all of the individuals that are participating in the Manistee County Cash Program. And we'll give them a rundown of how, okay, this is what you can expect, this is how you redeem it. And then also do a campaign to get other people to jump on board with the Manistee County Cash Program as well. So there'll be full communication on how to implement, execute, and what to expect from the promo card.
Okay, all good questions. Thank you. Appreciate it, Adam.
Thank you, folks.
Is there an ask? I think there's an ask.
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation would be making a motion to approve the commitment of $5,000 in support of the program.
What does our budget look like?
And so right now we have the remaining 9,000 under our advertising in marketing for this year.
Okay.
And so what we could do is, yeah, just kind of earmark 5,000 out of that budget line item, because we have 15,000 budgeted, 6,000, just under 6,000 spent. So we have 9,000 remaining in that budget line item for this year.
Okay.
I'll make a
Motion from Bruce, second from Bill. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Carried. Awesome.
Thanks for coming out, Ed.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Next up, MDOT US 31 detour presentation. There's a number of staff members here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it. My name is Krista Phillips. I work for MDOT out of the Traverse City office, but Manistee is one of the counties that we oversee. I'm the operations engineer there. We have Lucas, go ahead and introduce
Yeah,
yourself.
I'm Lucas Porath. I'm the project manager for the design efforts with this job.
And Dan Wagner.
Dan Wagner, I'm the manager of the Traverse City Transportation Service Center, and as Krista said, that includes Manistee County. We're basically kind of like the northwest tip. We have 7 counties that we oversee. So this is kind of the southwest corner of our service area. And I think everybody in this room is aware we have a very substantial, about a $40 million project that we're embarking on here that we hope to have concluded by the end of the 2028 construction season at this point. So
End of 2028. Okay, thanks, Dan.
So that's part of what we're here to talk about is that we're at about 30% design now. And we're able to kind of see like how deep we need to get into the road, how we're gonna maintain traffic, how long things are gonna take. We know we have to replace all the storm drain. The city is replacing some water main. We're discussing replacing sanitary sewer leads to all the connections on 31. And all of that is pretty deep in the ground. So we already know construction timeline, it's gonna take 2 years, we think. We have to come up with reasonable rates, and we assume you can't start until April 15th and you can go up until October 30th. contractors will take advantage of good weather. So this year we had a hard winter and a cold spring. And asphalt plants were still able to open and frost laws lifted at the beginning of April. So even though we have to plan for April 15th, they can start early if conditions are that way. But in our planning horizon, we have to assume that that's the construction season. So with the amount of work we have, when we put this out to bid, it's gonna most likely be a 2-year project, 27 and 28. So that's what we're assuming. If we get a really aggressive contractor in, that could change, but that's how we have to plan it. So we're looking at a 2-year project, and we know with the amount of width we have to work with and the depth that we have to go, we're looking at a directional detour, which essentially means US 31 traffic northbound is what we're planning right now, would stay on US 31, but southbound traffic has to be detoured. So what this handout shows that is what we're looking at now. It's not set in stone, and we're looking for your input on both how we're breaking out the project. Right now, we're looking at doing the south half in 2027, south of the bridge, and the north half in 2028. That is because the items that are taking a long time to order is steel, and water main is made of steel. And if we do it the other way around, we might not be able to procure all the items we need to start as early as possible in 27. So there is some water main work in 27 too, but this is probably the most logical way to break it up is do the south half in 27 and the north half in 28. So let's look at 27 first. The orange portion, so the south half starts at Stronach Road and goes up to the bridge. Like I said, northbound will stay on US 31. Southbound, we'll use Memorial Drive to Maple Street to Murky Road. We're still working with the county and the city on using those roads. So like I said, none of this is set in stone, looking for your feedback. And then we will widen US 31 south of Murky Road to maintain 2 lanes of traffic north and south on Murky Road. And then in order to maintain access to both sides of US 31, we'll have select crossings open at any time. So people may not all be open at once, but 2 or 3 of the main crossings will be open at any given time. So you can get to both sides. So that's 27. We are looking at using that Stronach Road detour for through traffic. So traffic, similar to what we did when the Bascule Bridge was under construction, we had through traffic, commercial traffic directed all the way around using the Stronach Road detour. So this green detour you see marked here is for locals that need to use downtown, or that choose not to use the Stronach Road detour. And then in 2028, on the other side, that work zone goes from the bridge north up to M55. Again, northbound traffic would stay on US 31. The full detour will still be in effect, but the local detour is quite a bit longer because there's not a lot of roads in that Parkdale area to use for a detour. So we would prioritize basically from Veterans Drive at Burger King to M55 and get that done as quick as possible so that section can be opened and this local detour can be shortened to basically use the Veterans Drive Lakeshore Road, a shorter detour. But so that's what we're looking at, and we would love to get your opinion and feedback. Bill, is there anything?
No, I appreciate Dan, Lucas, and for coming today. So I think the one thing was, I think there's been a lot of feedback from the last detour. I think Dan mentioned how there's less uncertainty with this project than with the bridge, where you have a historic bridge with custom parts. So I think there's a little more. We have some lessons learned from the last detour. I think this board kind of commented a lot about the detour signage and on 55 and Stronach, and also on the Parkdale 55 area. You mentioned detour through town, but it's almost like you want the non-Manistee truck traffic to use 55. So I think kind of getting that signage to really say, yeah, local traffic can get right here but non-Manistee truck traffic really just stay on 55. Because I think the comments I was getting here a lot was, when you say detour on 55, it makes it seem like 55 has an issue, you must turn into Manistee, and I think that was kind of a lot of the headache near the, during that bridge construction, so.
I think Bill covered my concern as well, just signage and obviously this construction is appreciated and well needed. But when the sign says bridge out, that was just kind of like, oh, Manistee's closed, we got to go around. So just, signage and education.
So we will have a signage plan developed. It's not ready right now, but we can circulate that around for input just to make sure it meets what you guys are looking for. We of course circulate it with Bill and then whatever he thinks we'll give to this group or whatever. So yeah, we can work with that. We could just sign this for trucks only and have all cars go through Manistee. So we're open to a lot of things.
Okay.
We know how much it impacts the businesses especially. So.
Thanks, Krista. So I think we're early on the process, but just wanted to make sure this board being affected by the downtown, just for you guys know we have input.
No, I really appreciate the inclusion and the communication. I know we've been on calls before specifically about the intersection on River Street and 31 too. So excited to hear more about it.
We're at a point in our process too, where it's a really good time to receive feedback from people. So we'll have upcoming stakeholder meetings, public meetings. So I encourage you to kind of help spread the word and to participate in those. Reach out directly to us, we welcome the feedback and sharing concerns.
Okay.
So that we can address what we can address.
Is there any reason this project will not happen? Or is this a full go?
So so right now, this project, it's in our approved 5-year plan. It's been funded, it's been fully vetted. The money's there. So this is literally the last major reconstruction project in the 21 county area that makes up our region that we do have committed funding for. So we very much don't want to try and interrupt the schedule, but with that said, things always change. Particularly some of the things that are happening at the federal level right now, that's not trickled down anything that MDOT's doing on projects of this nature. So we are in as good a place as we possibly could be as far as funding for this project goes right now. Some of the things that still could change is this detour route that Chris is presenting to you today is very likely going to require some infrastructure upgrades off the state trunk line. And we don't have money for that. So we're going to have to figure out a way. Once we know what the detour is, then we can sit down and calculate what those impacts are going to be and try and come up with whether or not we think we can fund that through cost savings on other projects or reprogramming other projects to subsequent years. But MDOT is entirely committed to this project right now. So Krista's kind of went through a lot of information very quickly here. But we've done a tremendous amount of stakeholder engagement already. We've had a series of meetings with the surrounding townships, met with Bill and his staff several times, local consultant involvement, met with the local transit folks. But this is just a really critical component. We're very aware of the construction fatigue that this community has suffered from the M55 bridge project, the Vascular Bridge project, and some curveballs thrown at us on that. We were not directly involved with that, but it wasn't on that project. I understand that. But so we're trying to tread as lightly as we can on the community while at the same time showing up with a wheelbarrow literally full of $40 million of cash that we're hoping to dump here. So we're really excited about this project, but only get one chance to do it. We want to do it as right as we can. So
Would you say that that's most difficult for last?
actually, this project was originally programmed for a previous year, but because of budget constraints. So what MDOT has experienced, and I don't want to get too far off topic here. I know you folks have a busy agenda, but our buying power has decreased by about half of what we have experienced from the inflationary influences that started around 2020. So that same ton of asphalt you see people, Elmer's paving on M22 just north here right now, it's costing us twice as much to the same amount of work. So that's required us to make adjustments throughout our whole program. And but these projects in 27, 28, the last major ones in our whole area until and if we get more money, this is probably it. So we're really excited to deliver this. So in a community that we think is really gonna have a tremendous impact. You know, I think everybody in the room aware of the lane reduction that's being proposed. It's an extremely critical thing that we're very confident that it's just gonna kick the door wide open for a lot of opportunities for the community, particularly the business community. Some of the things we're hearing in other areas, City of Cadillac, Kalkaska, some of the smaller Manton, West Branch, you know, it's kind of become the new, people are realizing it's not just about moving as much traffic as quickly as you can through the corridor. It's about, you know, some place making and kind of going backwards to make it a little bit more, you know, community friendly, pedestrian friendly, business friendly. So this is a feel good project for us. We're really excited about this project.
Yeah, I'm excited about it as well.
So Krista, I have a clarifying question to ask. If a camper, boater, fisherman, whatever, is coming from the north heading south, but are staying in one of the 4 hotels that are within the detour, they have to head south around the city and then head back north?
Yes. They could, which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at
28 plan,
2027.
27?
Because if northbound stays open, everybody coming from the north, south will have to basically circumvent the city just to go north to get to that hotel.
So they could stay on US 31 until you get to Memorial Drive and then follow the detour as far as they need to and then come back around.
So they could cut into the project, they could cut
Yeah.
into the project on the side streets.
Yeah.
So they'll be, and it'll fluctuate which ones are open depending on where, you know, if we're working in certain intersections. But we'll limit how many intersections can be closed at a time. So, yeah, they don't have to go all the way through the detour necessarily, they can come in from the side.
And are you planning separate meetings with the businesses along in Manistee Township that are potentially affected by this?
Open to that. That's something that we could do, sure.
So next, when is you anticipate the next public hearing?
We wanted to make sure we have a plan that's kind of been pre-vetted by the city and the county before, but our next stage is to do a stakeholder meeting and let them see the 30% plans. We're gonna talk about, we're gonna do sidewalk on both sides, most of the corridor. We got additional funding to do sidewalks. We're looking for a grant to do lighting. We're gonna talk about crosswalks and that sort of thing. And then after stakeholders, do a public meeting. So it's probably gonna be this summer.
Something
Yeah.
like that. Tomorrow, we're actually meeting with the Manistee County Road Commission. Because obviously the roads that are outside of the influence of the city limits fall into their jurisdiction. So we've got a lot of pieces in play right now, a lot of balls in the air, and but we will be having some more public input meetings, and those folks certainly will be welcome to attend. So,
And if there's some other, like Krista said, if there's some other specific meeting that someone wants us to be at or to present at, we're open to doing that. Not aware of how they're organized, the township with the businesses, but.
We want to go back to the commissioners who will go out to their representatives, hearing different, that, you know, part of the township. That commissioner.
That's great. We've been to the township a few times.
one thing that's interesting and somewhat unique about this project, Krista mentioned the sidewalks. Our work will be affecting almost every single abutting property through this whole corridor. We have 140-ish, 160 real estate needs along here. So for no other reason alone than we need people to sign off on a piece of paper, they will have every opportunity to have one-on-one engagement with their staff and fully understand.
That's good. We tend to get the calls also, and with some of the hotels that are, and it's totally needed, so please don't take that the wrong way, but
That's why we're here.
we tend to get the first phone calls.
Encourage people to reach out to us. We're happy we end up working with just about everybody one-on-one through a project like this. And so a lot of times people kind of are hesitant to call or so just encourage people to, if they have something they want to share or concern or anything to reach out.
Great, thank you.
We also have a project website, And this isn't official, this is just for this meeting. But once we have agreement from all parties about what roads we can use and everything, we'll make a nice, like, professional quality map and circulate that at public meetings and give it to the businesses and put it on our website. So.
And that this was a good venue where we have representation from the tourism authority here in the county, as well as the downtown businesses. So it was just kind of a good place to get communication going.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks, Bill. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to approval of minutes from our regular meeting on April 9th. Any discussion or questions about those minutes?
And I'll make the motion that we approve those minutes.
Motion from Karen. Second from Lindsay, right? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Approval of expenses. Any questions for staff? Already signed the check, so I hope not.
So this month we have $51,857.16 that was signed. Some of those bills are the reoccurring ones like the Chamber of Commerce Executive Director fee, Richardson McDougal. And then we also paid for Wheezy's, the flower baskets, which DPW has distributed downtown. And then Jim Pulowski is working on the planters. We are paying out, correct me on the name, Andrew, James, for his facade grant. And then we have a Spicer group for their work on the streetscape. And then the West Shore Community College, our agreement for the use of the parking lot is also being paid out this month.
Balance at West Shore.
Like I
We have cash balance at West Shore.
West Shore Bank.
In
Yeah.
our account.
Yeah.
It is about 97,000 right now. We just transferred 50,000 from the M class to help cover the bills for this.
Well, did you receive a receipt from Lucky Lizard?
Yes, those also were paid out using our debit card because they were so long outstanding invoices. So, and those come from the Frostbite Festival money raised, not DDA funds.
All right.
Move to approve.
Motion from Bruce. Second from Ben. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all. Executive report, Andrew.
Yep, so as you can see, 23 economic development contacts in downtown. A lot of those were with property owners, really trying to re-engage some of the three priority sites that are RRC priority sites that are Ware Hardware, 348 River, which is the Music Vault, and then the Derry Jones Building. And so over the course of this month, having conversation with the land bank, Teresa Waldo and Mark Whitliff at Planning Commission, as well as Ed Bradford and Molly to talk through how do we get an incentive package on these sites to make them more attractive. And so I had conversations with Don Ward to kind of talk through some of his expectations for the property. And, you know, he's been on the market for 2 years now. And so he's really eager to have movement on it. And if we can assist in coming up with an incentive package, and working with the land bank and also working with the city to get a Oprah district or something pre-approved. So then somebody can just go in and get a incentive rather than have to get the district established as well as the incentive. And so that's been quite a bit of work. We've had 2 facade grants come in this month. So working with those property owners and businesses to submit those applications and then have them be reviewed by the subcommittee. And we'll touch on that a little later.
Okay, questions for Andrew? Thanks, Andrew.
Yep.
Subcommittee reports, facade grant.
So under facade, over April, after doing a bit of research and having conversation with the subcommittee, we decided to change that program to be rolling rather than pigeonholing it to just 2 months out of the year where you can apply. A lot of other communities do that. It's more impactful and it's more convenient for business and property owners because they can come to us whenever their project is ready to go rather than having to wait to do a project until August in September to get all those details and submit them to us. And so that's now been changed to rolling. In addition to that, one of the applications that was submitted was reviewed by the subcommittee. It is for piping plover, 385 River. The ask was around $37,000 out of a $79,000 project. The subcommittee is recommending to the board a $20,000 facade grant. And so I would look for a motion to either approve or deny that recommendation for approving that amount for the facade grant of piping plover.
Curiosity, what's the project?
So it's pretty much a complete redesign of what they currently have, where so painting, complete window reconfiguration, how all the buildings have their windows covered up above the door. That was happening like in the 80s. See, they're pretty much removing that, replacing it with actual glass.
Okay.
So it's a significant amount of work that they're putting into it.
What a motion.
Yeah, so the subcommittee is making a recommendation to approve a $20,000 grant to that project.
I have a question.
Yep.
I probably should know this, but if that grant is approved, is there a timeline?
Yep, so everybody has a year from the time they sign up the grant contract to complete the work.
Okay, and if not, then what?
It's null and void. They can't
Okay,
come
then they
to us
don't receive any
afterwards.
funds.
Yeah, they won't receive funds from us.
Okay.
If it's extraordinary circumstances, there are clauses where we will work with them to change that contract. If it's something that's really extraordinary and they started the work and just can't complete it in that time. But if they just haven't started the project until, a year afterwards, it's null and void, and they'll get notification saying, hey, where are you? I do monthly check-ins with all our facade holders. So if they're not starting the work in a reasonable amount of time, those will become null and void and just right back to our budget.
Thanks, Deanna. Okay, is there any movement on this recommendation?
Make a motion to approve the recommendation.
For 385 River Street? Yes, thank you, Bill. Motion from, or a second from Bruce. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And then there's one more item, just as Nicole mentioned, Jim Matthews project, which was awarded this year. That's now been complete. He did a complete window replacement and is getting awnings put up, but we're only covering the window replacement from a facade standpoint. Just wanted to highlight that, one of our projects that was approved earlier in the year is now complete. So exciting news there.
Excellent. Moving on to streetscape. Where do you want to start? Brandon?
Yeah, Brandon, got a bit of.
guys.
Yeah, so we've been working with Brandon over the past several months to really cement a streetscape concept. We've also, I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but we were awarded the RAP grant, which was very exciting. And so we have a lot of momentum with streetscape. And so now we really want to come to the board and start kind of publicly showing the vision that we've come up with, from selecting elements from the F&B study, condensing those down to what's actually practical and feasible for this group to pursue.
And we've been working with Spicer Group as well as Right Side Design, and we hired Right Side Design to sort of put some technical stuff in a position where we can visualize what we want. I'm visual, I'm on the subcommittee. I was trying to envision what I want. I'm like, Brandon, can you draw this and show us, render it simply, not so technically. And I think we've gotten there.
Working 78, we finally made it.
That's right. So working closely with Spicer as well. And so I'm excited about this. Thanks, Brandon. I'll let you go.
I'm assuming I have to share this, right, to get to show up. I think too, this is almost a preliminary implementation plan too, right, Brandon? Yes, to some, I mean, it shows kind of baseline costs that, with the contract that, right, Andrew?
Brandon, I think you can just hold up the screen and then.
Like just here, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's still.
Not producing anything?
Maybe it's me, because every time I'm in this building. It's not your Apple computer. I'm right, I can't play my computer, but it's not my phone. It's video work, well, video works.
It said something earlier about recording.
Right, with it in place, like with recording in place, it's not allowing me. But I should be able to still share that screen, I would
think, but it's not.
They're showing it up to the right there, Brandon, upper
Right
right.
up here.
Yeah.
The screen's just showing the Zoom instead of that screen.
Right.
I just minimized the Zoom and then try to pull up that PDF.
Well, if I try to do it, it told me I can't.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Can't get there from here.
Technology. Sundays can tune them.
Can we stop the Zoom?
We can stop it, but we do have to restart it.
No, I get, yeah, 'cause
So no, I guess a little bit of background that we can dive into while this is getting.
take minutes the old way.
All right.
Me too. Yeah.
I said nothing will break. Okay,
We should be good.
so yeah, we're gonna do this the old fashioned way. So,
Just, they tell me I have to record meetings, you know?
That's, guess we're gonna scroll. Okay, so this is just, again, understanding where we are and how we arrived here today. This is the streetscape goals and objectives as identified in the public feedback sessions that were conducted as part of the F&B study in 2023. This is then the top board scored goals and objectives as part of the project in review of the F&B study at the DDA board level in 2024. So these are very similarly aligned. I won't go through all these word for word because you guys have already been, plugged in here for a good hour or so meeting, but essentially connect, stay, green, access, smart growth, improve. These are, again, this is just a direct one-to-one from the F&B study. And this is a summation overview of your feedback points that you provided from the scored criteria from the DDA level. So all of those were parts of considerations that the committee used moving forward. From here, this is really where then the streetscape committee refines some of these objectives. We need a scaled and sustainable solution focusing on enhancement and safety throughout the downtown corridor. We need to create an implementable and unified vision for downtown. We understand we cannot accomplish this all at one time. There needs to be an appropriately scaled approach to this to make sure that it's feasible. We know we need a plan that can people can get behind and one that can create opportunities for alternative funding sources. And we want to obviously, very similar to what MDOT had said in their presentation, I want to echo that here, that there is fatigue downtown with improvements and detours, and that is something that the Streetscape Committee was very aware of moving through this process. I wanted to put this in here just so everyone has a top of mind awareness as to what is happening, if for no other reason to just really say, hey, look at all that's happening. So there's the RAP area, the RAP brand, there's a primary River Street corridor, there's the EDA Riverwalk, there's the North Riverwalk, there's the Gateway. So there's a lot of different project elements all in one concentrated area. When we went through with the Streetscape Committee, we focused on a block by block design. So essentially knowing that with limited funding, limited budget, limited availability, knowing that we're going to be utilizing or that the recommendation from some of the feedback from stakeholders, F&B, was that we do need to utilize what we have to make this a feasible project. Committee walked through block by block. This is the primary area that is rendered, and this is the primary area that we walked through. So we actually walked all the way from basically the Ironworks all the way through to the Marina Plaza on the west end. So we walked through this entire area, but we specifically noted where there were safety concerns and where there were opportunities, and those opportunities were contained a lot inside of the intersections. Recurring theme that was found inside of the F&B study and the board feedback was the desire to have public gathering space, slow pedestrian and vehicular traffic downtown, have more areas and opportunities to stop and enjoy the downtown corridor. And the intersections are an opportunity that the committee felt was where we could have.
And to increase opportunities to cross the street.
Yes.
Mid-block and at
Safely, yeah. This is the first kind of rendered look that you'll see. I've got block by block. This is Division Street. No, that's not a Division Street. Greenbush. Don't go that. This is Greenbush. Proposed building. Right now, we've got parking spaces here that would be entirely bumped out. Committee felt that it was important to utilize that. That was also something that was referred to inside of the F&B study as well. Incorporation of green space, instead of having the green space built in, having planters that were raised to also allow for traffic calming measures. Something that was, again, in the F&B study and the committee felt was positive. Look for downtown without having to, necessarily have the over-the-top maintenance potentially with embedded planters or things on the street level. So this was something that felt was a little bit more sustainable. Again, the bump outs, the high vis crosswalks, one thing you'll notice here is that the embedded crosswalks in the street are removed. This has been a maintenance issue. This would just, again, go back to more of a striped painting appeal, but having the bump outs would be creating, you know, a much different visual interest throughout the downtown corridor as opposed to having the crosswalks embedded within the road. Bollards, which again are incorporated as part of the wrap project. Really? Okay. It is me, clearly. So having the bollards as part of this at the intersections to, you know, identify a separation between vehicular and pedestrian space, something that's also evident in the wrap grant, if you recall that process a few months ago. Again, reinforced here because, again, trying to instill that unified design across the entire corridor. Block by block, here is the look of Division Street. So the division coming down, we got the existing walls that would be utilized and maintained. Areas that are bumped out, signage, planting, integrated bench seating around the current corner lamp posts. This is an area that was a focus point for the committee for a couple reasons. If you recall, we're reading the F&B study, there was a lot of public feedback about engagement and engaging spaces between the Riverwalk and the merchants and River Street. The area that they specifically highlighted is east of here, essentially right off the Greenbush intersection. You remember there was potentially a 3-story elevator, pedestrian elevator, lookout, tiered, stacked seating. That also came at a very high price tag. This is accomplishing a similar goal, but utilizing a piece of property that already is owned and controlled by the DDA. So that parking lot is essentially what you're seeing here. This is Dick's Barber Shop. This is the DDA parking lot that is overlooking the river. This is the ADA ramp that kind of sweeps down behind there where the sheet piling work as part of the ADA Riverwalk project has created the stabilization of that. And then this would be the first mid-block stop. So this is where traffic would be forced to stop on River Street and actually slow down coming off of 31. I know myself personally, working about the outpost, traffic is going pretty quick by the time I look out the window there. So this providing a mid-block stop, committee felt was very important to have that incorporated somewhere. And it still has to go through feasibility and make sure that it is all feasible based on how it is designed with mid-block stop. But again, similar green space plannings, but then utilizing that flat space that is there now for some kind of public plaza, park, playscape, all things that were reinforced from that F&B study. A lot of people could then say, okay, well, what about parking? You remember from the F&B study, there was a parking study. Right now, our off-street parking and peak capacity up here is at about 38%. Utilization recommendation from them is 85%. So we have more than enough off-street parking to handle the loss of those spaces. So that is one kind of concern right away that when we talk at a committee level, say if we're taking that space up, does the parking study say that we have ample space? And the answer is yes.
You have a couple of charging stations in there. Will those be moved to the street?
Yeah, those would be probably moved somewhere. That was one thing that Bill did mention when we were walking the charging stations could potentially be moved to another area, another lot somewhere. Here is just another look at Greenbush. That is the north side of Greenbush. It's showing that, you know, large bump out pedestrian area. Poplar, so Oak Theater on the corner here, very high pedestrian traffic area and widening that section out to the north. There's also the drive, if you recall there, that leads down to Manistee Arena there. So having this whole area just be having obviously availability to get down there and back there, but having it more pedestrian focused in that bump out space. And then Maple would remain largely unchanged in what the discussion was at the streetscape level. Instead of bumping out there, it would keep essentially where the curb and gutter is now. The desire was to really kind of keep that where it is, because if there are deliveries, semis, not that there isn't valuable or turn radius room, but just keeping that. There's a lot going on at that intersection. So the committee, ultimately landed on, we should probably just tentatively leave it as is right now, just because of the different pieces and parts that are happening. There's a lot of signals, there's a lot going on. I'll pull this up. This will give you just a quick. This is starting down at this is the Division Street intersection. So just again, showing the pavers. There's no shadowing, no lighting, no major rendering. Again, it's just more of a block model, just to give you some scale and scope. From here, this will take you to the first mid-block stop. That is at that, what the committee is kind of deeming as the East Plaza. This shows some just basic wayfinding pieces as part of that as well.
See the water?
Another discussion on F&D study talks about outdoor fire pits and basically outdoor gathering spaces. This could also be a place where that could be incorporated. Board feedback also had snow melt as a high priority. Well, snow melt on the entire street, that is not a cheap endeavor, but the committee did discuss if snow melt was to be implemented, that East Plaza could potentially be a location where we start that look, because it could be a 365-day a year plaza at that point. And also giving some purpose and a defined use for the social district to have, if you do grab a beverage and you do walk about, that does give you a direct place that you could go, or a destination to go, which again is supporting some of that community feedback from the Slice of Vandenberg study. Moving down this Poplar intersection, showing again, committee looked at this as, you know, on a block by block basis, trying to incorporate raised planter beds, seating, places for people to gather. And finally moving to Maple Street with, again, updated wayfinding where it's appropriate. Going right through the Ramsdale in there, probably like third floor-ish. And then this will just give you a look of what
That's looking east.
yeah, that is going flyover heading east. So phased approach to implementation, again, focus areas. When we looked at this, it wasn't just that section of River Street. No, that's what is rendered, because we're going to run the entire street. We're running basically the concept and the idea of how to then implement that block by block. Rat grant project area, primary corridor. This is what you saw rendered. Gateway to the East Plaza, and then we got secondary corridors. So all of these lines that you see, those are essentially areas where when streets were improved in the past and enhancements could be made to align with the streetscape. So that could be a ribbon of pavers, that could be a band of pavers in the sidewalk, that could just be the street lights, that could be an island in a parking lot that has pavers. I wanted to indicate generally where those were, just so DDA and committee is aware that it isn't just River Street that has these things. So whatever is done, we need to make sure that there is awareness to the surrounding context as well. So primary corridor walkthrough, essentially kind of breaking it up, committee direction three main priorities within kind of this first cluster, and that's up here. So we've got the RAP grant project area to the west, we have block by block intersection bump outs, and then we've got the entire repaving of River Street and part of Division as part of the city's transportation improvement plan in 2026 that's slated right now. So that's really what the committee is handling as phase one.
Just to enforce that, our proposed priorities would be the intersections first.
Focus on intersections. Priority 2, I mean, this could be priority 2, priority 10, priority 12. I mean, if the East Plaza is the direction that the DDA community want to go, there are different opportunities for potential funding inside of that, as well as how exactly that would be incorporated with that mid-block crossing as well, because that mid-block crossing is essentially taking it where you pull into the lot right now. So again, depending on the funding availability and what that looks like, that could dictate when and if and how that happens. From there, priority 3 is the mid-block sidewalk areas. So committee is looking at pavers from curb to building. And looking at, costs right now as to how that could be attainable, specifically, again, to go from curb to building. Right now, we have primarily concrete with the ribbon, 2-foot ribbon, 2-foot ribbon pavers between the curb and the sidewalk. And we've got the sidewalk, and we've got the paver ribbons that run from that long ribbon to the building. Committee direction of desire is to have the primary corridor be all pavers from curb to building. And then secondary corridor improvements, that's essentially the side streets. So that's taken care of, you know, whether that's new pavers, new concrete, I mean, those are still areas that are up for discussion on the committee level. Preliminary cost review, this gives you, of course, this is gonna not quite. Okay. RAP grant project, that's where RAP grant came in at. With the grant being approved, that's about $756,000 for the grant, $200,000 from the city, and $556 from the DDA. That includes contingency, prior expenses, things of that nature. Again, Spicer has a breakdown in detail of that. That could be.
If I could just add to that too, the RAP grant, when we applied for that, it had 10% contingency on the construction, and then we also included the shared streets and spaces grant that we applied for with the city, as well as the F&B streetscape study as grant eligible items. So that 756 includes matching half of those. So I threw that in for this presentation with Brandon into the contingency, because that's stuff that you already paid. So you have 15% of contingency instead of 10.
Thanks, Lucas. Primary corridor, so right now, tentative budget pricing are around $900,000 for those blocks that are not for those intersections and bump outs that are not included in the RAP grant. So the RAP grant is the West Plaza, essentially from the marina. Then you've got Pine, Oak, and then this makes up those block intersections that were highlighted in the prior slide: Maple, Poplar, Greenbush Division, and the mid block. Kyle never likes it when I go backwards on River Street, but.
And right now, the River Street concept plan is not to do new pavers from the back of curb to the building. It's just resetting the strips. So I just want to be clear on that. That's
On the RAP grant.
for the RAP grant
Yes,
area.
Yep. So the RAP grant area has essentially these items: Kerbals Plaza at the marina, bump out at Pine, bump out at Oak, paver resetting along the street, planters, bollards, seating, wayfinding, and then repaving. That's what is included. So the primary corridor, again, this area, again, we're just touching those intersections. So those concrete bump outs, the bollards, planters, wayfinding, at Maple, Poplar, Greenbush, these plaza crossing Individual Street, and removal. I wanted to include that. That does include removing. We're getting rid of those crosswalks that are currently embedded in the street right now. To go for more of the painted high-vis crosswalks that you saw that was rendered based on committee feedback. The street work, again, as I had mentioned, planned in 26, repaving of River Street. Then East Plaza, again, that's, you know, establishing that committee goal of connection to Riverwalk and enhancement of public gathering space. Mid blocks, cross sidewalks. So committee goal again is looking at pavers between the curb and mid blocks and a possible phased implementation of this. The idea of looking at the actual blocks and then looking at mill and fill of River Street. So you have the RAP grant, you got the mid blocks. Essentially, we're trying to take care of everything from the curb inward. So trying to get that portion done, and then from there, figuring out a phased approach to go from the curb to the building is the tentative plan. And then secondary corridor improvements, taking care of priority areas there. So next step, so I hooked up to the fire hose and told you all this, and now what do we do? So refining budgets, alternative funding sources, that's going to still continue to be a committee priority. Discuss this vision and implementation strategies, those numbers become more available based on how the committee wants to peel that off. Putting that in front of downtown businesses, property owners, city council, and commissions. Continue to communicate design to stakeholders to ensure unification of surrounding projects. Again, that first slide that I showed of all 5 of those project areas, I want to make sure that this is not, streetscape soup or design soup, that it all looks and feels like we're all in the same, area reading out of the same book, because it's all within a really 2 square mile strip of area. So I want to make sure that there's similar signage, similar pieces as part of all that. So that's priority from the streetscape committee to make sure that that is done through this process. And then hold strategic discussions with the DDA board to define the future of the project goals and organizational objectives. That comes back to some of the items that Andrew had communicated with you all earlier in the year about having that for strategic planning discussion with the board. Important to get this and some of these refining elements in front of you before that, because this is not a small ticket item. This is a big ticket item, and it could definitely impact long-term planning and thinking of the DDA and the organization moving forward. So wanting to make sure that you have all of the right tools at your disposal before that process proceeds forward. So there we go.
Thanks, Brandon. Any questions for the subcommittee or Brandon? Briefly. Okay, we'll do it.
If you do have a question too, later on, just email me and I can make sure to articulate that to Brandon in the subcommittee. So I know that was a lot of information, so sit with that. Get any questions over to me, and then we can pass those along.
Okay, moving on to, do we have anything for gap finance?
Nope, just want to highlight, passed out a couple applications for that and kind of pushing that, but that's all.
Okay, great. Target business?
So Target Business Committee was formed after last meeting. It is Deanna and Ben and myself, and so we've met twice. The first meeting was really laying out demographic breakdowns, market studies, so we were all on the same page, looking at community profiles, making sure we understood that, you know, what's the age of the markets we're operating in and kind of what are some community needs. The second meeting, we highlighted some key properties being 308 River Street and 415 River Street being two of the vacancies that the group could actually target and supporting and filling. In addition to identifying those two lots, we use Placer and void analysis to highlight 5 potential businesses in markets, being kind of outdoor rec, breakfast bakery, clothing store, pet shop, and then one other. And so that group's kind of rocking and rolling right now in that regard. And so we meet every other week. And so just more progress to come. And we've kind of also had a lot of discussion around real estate and real estate redevelopment and kind of making sure that we're pushing on some of those sites that aren't able to be filled because they are blighted and need to be redeveloped. And so using that group as a platform to also be really intentional about those incentive packages that I was talking about earlier on some of those more difficult properties like the Music Vault or Ware Hardware. So any questions? Ben, do you guys have anything to add on that?
No. Good. Appreciate it. Thanks for participating in that. Okay, moving on to events, item C.
Events, we got an application sent over by Chief Glass in April for 344 River that is Talk About It. And they are proposing doing karaoke night every Thursday on River Street from 7 to 9. So I hope you all had a chance to review that application.
I did. I don't really, I'm not excited about this.
Yeah.
I mean, karaoke on River Street.
Could I just make a process point here?
Yeah.
Did I see correctly the part of the form that requires other businesses and, neighbors to be consulted was blank?
So on what portion of it?
Yeah. The application.
So there was another application sent that's like the proposed new DDA of that application. Was that what you may have been?
I don't know, I read it.
Oh, yeah, because right underneath that one, there's a proposed new DDA event application that hasn't been implemented. It was presented last summer and then it's never implemented. And that's the one that requires the signatures. That was a point that came out of last summer's discussion that
Does this event application have any of that?
No signatures because this was before its implementation.
I'll just say it was a suggestion always for the, when TJ's had their block party to talk to the neighbors, that they get the neighbor's approval. So Chief Glass would ask them that. I think we've had a lot of businesses go ahead and do that and get the signatures. But it's never been formalized where this is what the DDA is requesting. So that's was part of it where we've had willing people doing it before. I think we need to implement a process where it's, in order to get a recommendation from the DDA, you need to actually physically get
I think
those.
that's where I'm going with this. I think that should be a recommendation because at the last council meeting, where, the event stuff came up, there was a conflict out in the public. Feedback was not solicited and it was a mess. I don't want that ever to happen again. If you want to do an event downtown, talk to your neighbors and work it out. And otherwise, you don't get to start the process here. I don't want to participate in, creating a mess on display anyplace. So that's where I come out.
So we do need to revisit that application.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
And we will.
we have the new application in this budget or in this packet, and so right after this, we'll be able to make a motion on whether we want to adopt that new one for all downtown events.
Okay.
Are they looking to close the street down every Thursday? No,
No.
it's just gonna be on the sidewalk or?
That's the proposal. The event has history. It's not a family-friendly event. I don't think it's, in my opinion, it's not the look that we want for downtown Manistee, putting it on the sidewalk, is my opinion. But,
I agree with you, Kyle. I think when we're talking about taking up space on the sidewalks in the summertime, I walked through it last year. I was like, really? I mean, do they got approval for this? I'm going wrong. It's for the veterans. I'm a veteran. I appreciate that part of it. And they do it inside versus a sidewalk. So I'm with you, Kyle, on this one.
But you also don't see a cleanup plan on this. So it's outside on the sidewalk. They're utilizing social district. Whatever happens to, and I now have 8 tables out there. Last year, there was broken beer bottles in the road. There was cups on my tables. Like I had to come in, cigarette butts, I had to come in and do the cleanup of the event. So maybe, there's also a cleanup plan. I can say when Lindsay has her block party, her staff, her people are cleaning that whole road, putting it in the DPW, extra barrels that you have put out. My concern.
I understand dining and sitting and enjoying the sidewalk. But from experience with this event last year, for me to walk through the event on my way to a restaurant, karaoke on the sidewalk, it was not comfortable. It was, that's not what the idea was behind the seating on the sidewalk and the platforms.
Let me go back and say too, it's at the top of this. It says this form must be received 90 days prior to the event. And they want to start this thing June 5th. So if this event has history, this should have been planned back in December and presented to us. So.
And then to clarify, they did submit it to the city on March 29th. They sent it, and so they looked it over, had some feedback, and then we're asking for the DDA's feedback.
Did the city give any direction on where they were leaning?
I think without absent some sort of formalized process through the DDA, it's ultimately up to the council to, authorize an event like this. But I think that's where it's kind of making sure that we have that application in place. And I think you could do what you did before, recommend or not recommend this. And I think that would be conveyed to the council. And this would not be on the consent agenda.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? Do we want to move in any way?
Yes, motion to strongly not recommend this.
Thank you. Motion from Bruce.
Second that.
Second from Ben. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And that event application.
Yeah, but so now, as you saw, Bruce, in the packet, that event application with the signatures, and making a more deliberate effort to say, hey, in downtown, we're gonna have a separate application that requires you to get all these signatures. And so to implement that, Bill was the one who kind of crafted that and passed it on to me and requested that this board make a motion to kind of implement that. So then the city can attach that with any event application that they give out that is going to take place in the downtown.
Thanks for their work on that.
I hate to interrupt, but this is our fundraiser day and obviously this is not going off very well at this point, so I've been asked to.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dan.
50-cent ice cream cost today, guys. We can pull it together. Okay.
Do we have any movement on the proposed event application? I'm sorry.
Yeah, make a motion to approve it.
Okay, so there's a motion from Karen, I think. Well, there's a motion on the floor, so,
Second.
okay, discussion.
Discussion, just, I think we talked about too, expanding this to just right of way also, and not just a street closure, but if you're in the sidewalk, if you're in the public right of way and you're having an event, I think this should apply as well, and I think maybe.
Yep, so I changed the title to the DDA event application, just kind of blatant, all events that take place downtown, and you need 60% of businesses on both sides of River Street within the block the event's taking place on. We can expand that if we want, or
60%.
signatures, I guess. We could change that to higher if we'd like.
Okay, so my suggestion is, if you're gonna have an event, pick some distance from that event and say, you have to notify everybody. And, it's strongest if you can also demonstrate support. And not put a percentage on that support, because, 5% objection, that's correct. I don't want to have our hands tied to have to approve something, because, the majority of people, or 60% of people, thought a bad idea was a good idea.
Especially those businesses that are gonna be affected during those times. If a business closed at 5 o'clock and this event is from 7 to 9, the businesses that are gonna be open during those times, I think need to be aware and have approval.
And there's other considerations. There's Airbnbs, there's apartments,
Yep.
there's residences, there's a lot that happens in the central business district that needs to be considered.
Yeah, I think on closing the whole River Street on the riverside, one the business that gets forgot about a lot is the Manistee Inn. Because it's a hotel and then people staying at the hotel can't get to the parking for it, so.
Yeah.
We're revising those.
Yeah, I
applications.
can revise the
Or
first couple
revise
lines
these.
in that, and then
Bring it back.
bring it back and,
Yeah. That's what's good. All right, thank you. So we'll table it for now, right?
yeah.
I'll withdraw my
Going back on the motion.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the work on that. You're good with that? No?
That's good, and I just had some suggestions that we can work through.
Okay. Moving on to old business, Riverwalk. Bill?
Thank you. So things are moving along with the South River Walk, the marina access ramp. It's expected to be completed by the end of this week. We have some punch list items on the decking. Structurals completed, some punch list items, but they put in the sheet piling to stabilize the switchback over by the Dick's Barber Shop area parking lot. Painting is expected June 2nd to July 31st, so that's obviously some of these things are weather dependent. Electrical is to be completed by June 1st. And then landscaping is to start at the end of May. through the end of July.
Are there,
I'm sorry.
are there punch list items for the new decking? Is that what you were referring
Yeah,
to?
there's some areas that, I think there could be kind of a cleaner line over by the fountain. I think there's also just some deck boards we're asking to.
Okay.
And we spec'd a certain type of deck board. They actually provided a higher quality deck board, but there's still some, here and there you have.
Okay.
They're a little odd.
I'm glad that got noticed then.
So, yeah, we're working, and they've been great to work with. I know they did a lot of things through the winter, so I think it's understandable there would be some, things once everything melted. We could find some issues, but.
That was my concern too. I thought it was Trex or something like that we were gonna use. But there are gaps, and you can, even from cement to wood and stuff like that, so all those areas, they'll go back and look at.
And there's one issue where there's some sinking concrete, and there was a gap before, a trip hazard. We're looking at replacing that concrete maybe with just putting wood decking through there, but we're getting, work with a contractor and costing for that.
Okay.
Great.
I was just glad that it got noticed.
Yeah.
Thanks. The other update I would give, the North River Walk, we had a pre-construction meeting last week. Bids are due back to the 22nd next week. So that'll move forward this summer.
Big projects. Thank you.
Thanks for the update, Phil. Budget, recommendation, for approval.
And so, sorry, real quick, Kyle, so city council, we had to submit that kind of draft budget back in March. City council approved that draft budget at the last meeting. So now it's kind of on us to, do final reviews of that budget. Obviously the subcommittee met, and so now the process is we'll have to hold a public hearing and approve the budget in June. And so any changes that, kind of this board wants to see, need to happen in the next couple of weeks. And then,
I would propose that the subcommittee meet one more time with staff just to review it and finalize it. I think we're 98% there, probably, if not 100.
And the only, with this downtown dollars program, is that gonna change because of that 5,000 we're
You
gonna
mean
commit?
the proposal that Adam?
Mhm.
Yeah, no.
It wouldn't, because I think we're proposing to do it in this fiscal year.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So let's work on a
Yeah.
meeting date.
Yeah.
Thank you.
New business, new planter liner.
yep, so we have a quote for 5 new liners in the amount of $1,300. Nicole, is there anything that you really want to add to this? We're gonna need a motion for approvals. I'll have to notice that the planter boxes have been put out, hanging baskets are up. And so,
There's not much to add, just DPW kind of periodically requests new ones to make sure that they're in the best condition. So,
My comment is only that price is very reasonable. We've looked at some that are more than twice that in the past, so. Yeah. Everybody see that proposal? We do need some support to move forward on that.
motion.
Motion from Karen,
Second.
second from Bruce. Discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. Public comment.
I have a public comment. I'll be real brief as I've already taken some of the committee's time. I'd first like to thank the committee for their work on the streetscape project. I think the quality and architectural integrity that you put forth will have broader implications, not only to the central business district, but really to the community. If the pirate ship hasn't left the dock in East Plaza yet, I would encourage the committee to think about that area and whether a park is across the street from the plaza already. I think the tribe owns the land across the street, and there's some benches and paths and park there. So if we're in the central business district, perhaps consideration to a business use like a food truck. Catch 22 offers amazing food. I go up there 3 times or every 3 weeks in the summer. I know a lot of other communities have a area in their central business district for a food truck. As I saw the fire pits that were placed there, I think one of the chief assets of the community is the central business district's proximity to the water and to both the river and to Lake Michigan. If there's an opportunity to do some fire pits right down on the boardwalk, the closer you can be to the boardwalk as opposed to elevated up there, may be an idea for consideration. But those were my thoughts. I think we have a lot of park space, benches down toward the municipal marina directly across the street. And if there could be a business use that may help the downtown development.
Thanks, Adam. Anyone else? Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Board member comments. Sammy, anything?
I want to thank Brandon for all his work on this. Thank you for that. And thanks for implementing the new downtown Manistee DDA branding. So you'll see that in your pockets. And also nice job on Developer Day.
Thank you.
Ben, anything?
Not today.
Bruce?
Nice job, Brandon. hard thing, it's a hard, Brandon had, the Michigan State study, the F&V study, every other study, you know, open in his head, to close out this design. It's a hard thing. And it's a hard thing to describe what needs to be done. So, nice job. Well done.
Bruce, or Bill, sorry.
Just I wanted to add about the MDOT project. So there's a transportation alternatives program application that we worked on with MDOT, and that's going to expend some of those streetscape elements on US 31. So we're looking at double acorn lights going north and south of River Street. And so just kind of enhancing pedestrian, but also that feel of the historic downtown.
Yes.
Also looking to expand those south on River Street to south on Maple from River Street to Ramsdale. So I think we're always looking for ways to kind of maintain that feel like kind of when you enter the downtown. So whereas in the past, we had those elements of the streetscape, I think when we had the sewer separation, those opportunities were taken and appreciated. I think we still look for those when they're available. And also, we have an opportunity with this painter to do some of the streetlight painting. So that's something we're going to be commencing. Before we look like we have to take them out, ship them somewhere, have them painted. They have a way to do it on site. So I think it's more cost effective and starting on edges.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you. Tyler?
I'm all set.
Okay, Karen?
I just want to let everybody know that I have decided not to reapply for the board. I had some reflection on the past 8 years, and I am so thrilled with all the work that this board does. It has come a long way. I got on as a county rep to kind of help with the concerns of, you know, our River Street not probably thriving as much as it has, like Tyler knows. But, you know, looking around the board here and the last of the crew. So I think it's time for new people to get involved, maybe some more business owners. So you guys are doing an amazing job, and I look forward to walking the streetscape and all the good work you're doing. So keep it up.
Thanks, Karen.
I'm good.
Okay. I guess that's it. All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. I wish. Motion.
Motion to close. Thank you all for being here and the extended meeting.